you up. Hey there, to nobody, but we will hang about until people start showing up. If they start showing up, I have concerns on my mind about ComicsGate. So I'm hoping that some people will pop in here and we will be happy to invite anybody on who wants to join the conversation. All right, well, I just put out a little notice here on Twitter. All right. Now we got a message out there, basically telling the world of Twitter that we are live and they are all welcome to join the stream. I will add anybody on. I don't care. Pop in and have your opinion. I, for one, am starting to feel disillusioned by what's going on in ComicsGate. I question a lot of what's going on. I see polls like the one Mike S. Miller put up about where they stand in ComicsGate, and I see 57% favorable toward it, and see that presented by Mike as a failure of some kind. I don't quite get it. I mean, you bat 570, you're not only in the Hall of Fame, but you're going to own a team of your own. You have 57% approval rating as a president. You're guaranteed to win the next election. You might even be guaranteed to overturn the 22nd Amendment and get another election. So 57%, that's, at the same time, if you get 57% on an exam, well, you flunked it. So I guess it all depends on what you're trying to measure it up against here. I'm going to be caffeinating the entire time, so I apologize in advance for however rude it appears to be to drink on a stream. I hope that sound effect is not I hope that umbrella guy has not trademarked the sound effect of a tug glug. But he should. Tug is one of those guys that we do support. And that's kind of the root of where the disillusionment is coming in, is that I still want to support everybody. Sisson Hells, thank you for popping in here. Yeah, it's the consumer, and suddenly I have an analogy that I think applies to ComicsGate very well, and that analogy was best presented by stand-up comedian Emo Phillips. the bit he does is largely he's walking across a bridge, and he sees a guy getting ready to jump off, and he asks the guy, why you're getting ready to jump off, and he goes through his whole tale of woe, and he's like, well, you have friends, surely you have people that you have things in common with. He says, are you a Christian? And the guy says, yeah. Emo says, me too. So there's something we have in common. Catholic or Protestant? The jumper says, oh, I'm Catholic or Protestant. Me too. That's something we have in common. What denomination? Baptist. Me too. See, we have commonalities. We can work together on this. Are you Northern Baptist or Southern Baptist? Oh, Southern Baptist. Me too. Look at all we have in common here. Are you part of the Reformation of 1875 or part of the class of 1962? It's 1962. Die, heathen. And he pushes him off the bridge. And I think that's where we're at in ComicsGate. We have people who share all the ideals, and yet we have one guy who's like, I want to put out Trump comics. Well, though you're not ComicsGate now because you're political, because somebody said that ComicsGate was about getting away from politics, and that was taken as an absolutism. ComicsGate was about getting away from preaching politics and shoving them down your throat through a bullhorn that was not built for that. Nothing was in ComicsGate that said that you couldn't put out the tremendous Trump or Thump the first 100 days. What ComicsGate was about was stopping Superman from standing up and saying, what the hell is wrong with all you people for putting this man in office? First of all, they already did that when Lex Luthor won the election, and that was supposed to be an analogy to President Bush, and that didn't really fly all that well anyway. So that's what the whole get away from politics was. And now all of a sudden, it's you had these schisms, and because your side, it's the Inquisition all over again. Thou dost not love Jesus the same way we love us Jesus. Thou lovest Jesus wrong. Thou art going to hell, and we're sending you there. So you have one group that says this group's doing it wrong, therefore let's attack that group. And then the other group says, hey, we're doing comics the way we want to, and you guys are attacking us. So rather than prove their point by just doing comics, they turn around and attack back. And next thing you know, dildos are flying back and forth, and rainbow flags are flying out of people's butts, and nobody's making any comics. I thought it was about not having SJW nonsense, bad and or bland storytelling, and high-priced and frankly crap art. Yeah, that's what really kicked it off. That's what got the ball rolling when your boy Zach just had a YouTube channel, much like this, where he just sat down and rambled about what he saw going on in comics. And then, somebody started codifying what ComicsGate was supposed to be. Really, it was just initially, these are bad comics. I miss good comics. Fortunately, I have a lot of good comics here. So, maybe a little bit later on, we'll play a game of, has he got it in the box somewhere? We'll just throw out titles and see what I can dig up. See if I've got any in my collection and pull them out and just go through them and have some fun with older books. But I don't understand the war. I don't understand why. I think people have less faith in ComicsGate than they're professing to have. And the reason I say that is because they're defending it so much. If your faith is your faith in ComicsGate so little that you have to run out and defend it rather than actually show how it works by going out and doing? If somebody comes up to you and says, this ComicsGate thing is not going to work and you're doing it all wrong, and you're just a bunch of incels who are out there whining about the state of comics and not doing anything about it. Well, you know, rather than send out 20 pictures of this person with rainbow dildos strapped to their face, how about you just put out a comic and then say, okay, what do you got now? Um, that would seem to be the better path. But instead of standing on the strength of the ideals, you've got to argue the point and do it puerilely. And then you give the other side ammunition for saying, oh, they tweaked my little pink tomato nose. You backed 3 so far, Tug, Starblades, and Pillowman. I have been backing very few right now, and it's not because I don't want to. I backed in the beginning, but I was in a we just went through a huge move, so all my money went into that. But yeah, I backed Cyberfrog. That is in one of these. It's in the C box now. It's been put away. My other, I've also backed that up here somewhere. No, it's probably in my J stack, which of course is right there. Jawbreakers is going to be in that stack there somewhere. Lost Souls, and I have 2 others that I've backed that I'm waiting to get back on. I backed Little Girl Lethal way back in the beginning, and I've backed Blake Northcott's graphic novel Everglade Angels. So I'm looking forward to getting both of those. I wanted to back Littlest Umbrella Girl. Again, it was just a matter of saying, hey, it's $20 a comic all the time. How is Batman Beyond the complete series limited edition on Blu-ray? Artun, if you can wait just a second, I will be glad to get to that. Let me finish my thought here on the backing of the ComicsGate books here. Again, it's just coming down to $25 a pop for a comic that I got to wait a year for, or less. I had initially backed Pillowman, and I've been pushing for Pillowman hard because I think it's an important book. But I backed it on the time when it didn't make the thing, and I got refunded back, and then I kind of needed the money, so I didn't fund again. Artun, Batman Beyond is beyond excellent. We gave it 5 stars. If you go out to criticalblast.com, you'll find our review there. The photo of things spread out. Also, if you check out there's video on this channel. If you check that out, we do a review devoted specifically to that book where that box set, where we unbox the entire thing and put it on stream. So that's out there as well. You'll see all the contents pulled out. It's a very quality set. It is all the episodes. There's some director's commentary on there that's good to have. It also has the Batman Beyond Return of the Joker included in that set, which is a phenomenal film. I love that one. I do believe it's the uncensored version. It also comes with the 4 lenticular cards, which are very nice. They've got a 3D depth to them. And it comes with the Funko Pop of Batman Beyond, done in a very, very shiny, glossy black, it's just very cool if you're a Funko Pop collector. But yeah, definitely it's worth the money. It's on our Christmas gift idea list that we'll be publishing later on this month. So definitely recommend that. In fact, if you go to the video review or to the written review, in fact, go to the written review on the website, because I know that if you go there, there'll be a link to take you directly to Amazon. Plug, that helps the site. You still get it for the same price as if you went to Amazon directly. We just get a referral fee, and that's kind of how we live on the site, keep it up, be able to pay for all the high technology that we're using here. So, does it remind you of WWE wrestling? In a sense, I have definitely thought of that being like WWE wrestling. I know I just made the analogy that it was sort of like church schisms and how they go on. And it reminds me more of the church schisms because there is this belief structure, and then it's a matter of how to believe, and then it's also a matter of they take it seriously. And this is the internal people, not the external viewers. With WWE and WCW, that takes me back. I know there were people who watched it who took it very seriously, but the internal people knew, the bookers were writing the shows, and they knew when a heel turn was going to come. They were having fun with it. So I'm not having as much fun with the infighting going on here. I'm just seeing lines being drawn. I like Mike. I like Ethan. I like Edwin. I like John Delarose. I think if you got all of these guys in a room together to talk about comics, you would have a great convention panel discussion about comics. And I think as soon as one of them talked about anything else personal that they end up wanting to do as part of comics, it all falls apart. And I don't know why. We say it's a great big tent, and now all of a sudden we got a bunch of little tents because there's no room in our tent for you. So that's where I am on it. There are going to be other titles that I will promote, and of course, if anybody on any side is doing an independent comic book, we would love to have them on the show here and come talk about it. We'll promote your comic because we don't care what your belief is. We've had John Delarose on and done live streams with him. Edwin's had me on his show. We did live streams when we talked about gods and services. Link below. I've been on Ethan's show once or twice. Back last Christmas. Very kind of him to let us on there and talk about stuff. I can't think that it's for show because it's creating a financial impact. If it was for show, it would make a positive financial impact. I think it's making a negative financial impact on people. I know that people are their funds are going up, but I also know that they're playing games with the whole refund. I do not know what happened with Doug TenNapel. I was not part of it. I did not view it. All I know is that he's basically cut out of ComicsGate, and I don't need to be 100% ComicsGate. I'll see stuff in ComicsGate that I think, hey, that's a good book. I would like to get that book, and if I like it, I'll get it. I've reviewed some ComicsGate books positively, and I've reviewed a ComicsGate book mildly negatively, and boy, when I reviewed it mildly negatively, the creator of the series put out a video rebuttal of how wrong I was. Dark Admiral March Hare, good to have you here. Having another Tug Glug, trademark, copyright. Yeah, so just buy comics, and as bad as DC and Marvel are, I'm still going to buy DC comics. I was going to say I'll still buy them at $3.99 a pop, but now I understand that they've gone up like 150%. So I have not followed those stories yet. If that's 150%, that we're talking a jump of what, $9? Okay, so maybe that's the negative side of ComicsGate is DC saw that people will pay $20 for a comic, so they'll charge half that and knock it down to 10. I've also seen some rumor that AT&T has said that there are no sacred cows in their portfolio, which means that they're willing to sell anything off, and that Batman might be for sale, or any of the other DC Comics characters might be for sale. That would be interesting. I mean, what if Disney bought them? Technically they still wouldn't own all the publishing companies in the world, so they wouldn't have a monopoly. So there'd be nothing there to stop them, and we'd have DC and Marvel crossovers happening again. Speaking of it, they have that in the box. Put my eyeballs back on. Oh, let's just get them all out, shall we? See who's the old timers in here. You remember these? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so they've covered today. What has DC's prices gone to? Have they come out and said anything specific? Because I would really like to know if I'm going to be collecting comics anymore in my life. Okay, so the boy has gotten into my comics, and I think, in fact, I know he has upstairs under his bed in his many stacks of comics now. He has my Amazing Spider-Man versus Superman, and Amazing Spider-Man and Superman, and my Batman versus the Incredible Hulk, all in these wonderful oversized first edition comics that they used to put out. Jesus Christ! I just saw I saw the most amazing thing on these first editions. This exorbitant price tag. I mean, $1. You know what I could buy with $1? What was this? 1974. Carmine Infantino, the publisher. God, I miss Carmine. Carmine had the most optimistic future. Yeah, the black label $7.99. I can live with that. I mean, these are okay. These are game changers because now somebody's going to have to make an entirely new level of white box, and bags and boards. I guess they technically already make boards in this size because I have one that matches it. So yeah, if you cornered the market on the oversized bags, you can market to the black label people. These all come out in 74? Yeah, I think so. Oh yeah. Oh, here's some fun facts. Printed in Sparta, Illinois, World Color Press. So Sparta, Illinois is where I went to high school. And yes, World Color Press was a huge thing there in the 70s. They would have an annual parade, World Color Press Day, and people would dress up as Wonder Woman and Spider-Man and Superman. Got some Conan here. It was people were cosplaying before it was really a thing. I mean, there weren't even conventions at the time. Oversized Fantastic Four book here. The Fabulous Fantastic Four. I wonder if there's a Fantastic Fabulous Four. Superman salutes the bicentennial. Again, $1. Oh, that's cool. I'll get that in a second. There's oversized Shazam. Okay, gotta get up to the shelf here. I'm coming. So there's the cover of Superman Salutes the Bicentennial, and I just happen to have on my shelf. Let's play with this effect here. That's a comic book I would buy. Yes, I happen to have the statue here. Remember the Amalgam series? I love the Amalgam series. I thought that there was so much to be done with that, and I guess that Marvel and DC. Let me get back in front of the mic in case I'm not being heard. I guess Marvel and DC still co-own that character, whose name I can't even recall, but his power was that he could go back and forth. Okay, he was Vibe on the Flash show. He could go back and forth between the worlds, which now any of them can do with the remote control. Superfluous, and he doesn't really need to have one. And CW shows are something we're going to talk about here in a little bit as we get closer to Crisis. That'll be fun. I'm actually enjoying the build up to Crisis. The shows are still weak in certain areas. So anyway, I was talking about World Color Press, and World Color Press was unique through the 70s and the 80s and even into the early 90s because every comic book in America and some of the ones in Canada were printed there. Now, this was before the direct market, so if you wanted to buy a comic book, you had to go to like a 7-Eleven or a convenience store, and there were none in Sparta. In fact, there were no convenience stores for 30 miles. I remember I bought Teen Titans #1, the Baxter printing. At a 7-Eleven, I had to drive 28 miles to get it off a spinner rack. And God, I love that book series. So the way I got comic books was from the age of 4. I would go to my barber and I would sit there and he would get comic books. And how he got them, I'll get to in a minute. And I would read them while waiting for my haircut and then beg him to take some of them home. My first comic book was a Superman comic book, which I have in the box over here somewhere. And I recall he was grasping onto the U in the logo, and his body was being stretched out into the core of the earth. He was being sucked through a black hole, and he was like, save me, reader, or you're next. So it was one of those fourth wall breaking moments. But my barber got them from people who worked at World Color Press, because if you worked there and you did a print run of 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 copies of a title, and yeah, they were selling at that rate then, and there was no direct market. There were no direct market. They were just selling through the traditional channels. So when you print off that many, well, it's nothing to go to the discard pile or the overrun pile and just grab a handful and take them home, which is what people did. I got comic books at yard sales during the summer from, you go to the houses where people who worked at World Color Press were, and they just had 5 cents, 10 cents, here's your comic books, and they were still, brand new that month, some of them. And then, of course, if you knew somebody who worked there, then you were in the gold mine. And I knew people who worked there. So I was getting books all the time. And that's how I, in flyover country, was able to be introduced to books like American Flag, Ms. Mystic, Captain Confederate, not Captain Confederacy, I do have that though, Captain Canuck. It was very cool, but you couldn't say, okay, I need to get this book next month, because you didn't know what they were going to grab or what they would have available. One of the cool things I did have from there, and I wish I still had it, obviously the books, were either discarded, thrown out, trashed, or the ones that weren't distributed because they were paper. Well, what they also had were these metal copper plates that were engraved for the covers. And you'd look at it, would be a reverse imprint, obviously, because it's going to go down and print. I had a Donald Duck, Carl Barks artwork engraving that was used for making one of the Disney comics. And I ended up selling that when I was in college to somebody who would like it, but I knew a guy who had a stack of them. These things would just go back out on the back dock lot for being trashed. They were to be trashed. So it's you hear these stories about how the Disney animators used to put cells out on the back stoop for the trash collector. They were doing this at World Color Press with the with the printing plates. Now, as I did get older, I had a cousin who worked out there, and I would visit him frequently, and he would just drag out his long boxes and say, "Go digging." And I would get. They were printing image books in there at the time too. Now they had already started going to Canada, and yeah, it was very awesome. I wish I'd have kept it, shined it up, and framed it. That would have been very nice. They'd already started selling some of them to Canada, especially for the Baxter printing, the stuff that you could print bleed to the edge. But there was still plenty of traditional comics that they were making, and I was getting, Spawn, I was getting Savage Dragon, Gen 13. All of this stuff was just he was just bringing it home, and I was getting some of them, and he was getting the others. And then, of course, you had people who were getting them and going straight to the flea market and running a business of inventory that cost them nothing. Well, that's a little bit more hinky. Now, they were letting people do this with the overruns, but there were still people who got greedy, and they would get caught and fired because they were speculating. I remember one person got fired from World Color Press because they speculated on a #1 issue. They filled up a hefty bag with Smurf #1. Smurfs #1 was going to be their retirement fund, and I think there are probably more Smurfs #1 in hefty bags around the country than there were in that one person's hefty bag. Spawn passed 300. I know. I picked that one up. It's when Spawn came out. I got that somewhere too. #1. I did not stay with Image for very long because it was poster books to me. They weren't written that well to me. These guys were great artists who had plotted some stories for Marvel and wanted to go into the creator-owned, and what they did was important in that it did establish the creator-owned market, and they got rich from it, and they deserved it. I just didn't think their books were that well written. And when I picked up Spawn 300, what I learned from that was that Todd McFarlane can still draw. Todd McFarlane hasn't taken any writing lessons. So it was not writing lessons. I'm sure he's got a stable of ponies that he keeps somewhere on his millionaire estate where he has a mansion and a yacht. Welcome back. We've just been talking about World Color Press and people who invested in #1 issues like Smurfs and where they went wrong. Well, they had to have something to back up their Beanie Baby collection, I'm sure. Beanie Babies weren't out yet, by the way. I'm getting anachronistic. So yeah, that's one of the many stories from my colorful past. Website business. We're going to be doing some more reviews soon. Nobody here's from St. Louis, so I won't bother you with the Muni Magic concert we went to last night that announces next year's live theater listings. But you do all like DVDs, and we got this one in the mail today that I'll be reviewing. I don't know if anybody's watched it. I haven't. So I'll be checking that one out. Shadowhawk. Yeah, I liked Shadowhawk. Shadowhawk was cool. You know what I liked more than the Image books? I liked the Malibu books. I remember it was Prime, and Prime was a Captain Marvel ripoff. Let's face it. That's all it was a little kid who turned into a big, powerful superhero. I also liked. I'm thinking of Nightman. The Nightman. He had a television show for a while. Didn't last, but Rune was good. I remember Rune, big guy. But Nightman's power, his whole thing was that he could sense evil thoughts, and I thought, well, that'd be a cool power to have. It's very Minority Report. And a friend of mine said, so his whole thing is he senses that someone's thinking an evil thought and then he acts on it. I was like, well, yeah. He's like, what's an evil thought? I was like, I don't know. You're going to do something bad. So like if you're like Islamic and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to go home and have a BLT. I'm so hungry. Is that an evil thought? And do you act on it? Like, oh, well, I guess I hadn't really thought about that. Unbreakable. God, I love that film. Unbreakable was a fantastic film. And I have to now confess that I have not yet seen Glass. And I have not seen the one before that either, because at the time I didn't know it was part of the trilogy. So those are, there's a set out there that has all 3 movies on one disc. And as soon as I get the opportunity, Split, thank you. I'm going to get all 3 of them and just watch them in a marathon and then review that whole thing in one sitting. I think that would be fun to do. Nope, it's all old stuff now, so maybe I won't even review it. Maybe I'll just talk about it. But I liked the Patton Oswalt version of what he thought the Unbreakable trilogy should be. So, and I guess we were talking about Brightburn earlier today, which is another one I want to see, and somebody spoiled the ending of it. 6x6 spoiled the ending of it because he said there's a whole evil Justice League at the end of it, and now I really have to see it because I want to see a sequel to that. You know, Oswald is not one of my favorite people. Philosophically, let's say, he supports things that I don't necessarily support, but from a creative standpoint, what his idea was for Unbreakable, I thought was very, very cool, and would have brought in more superpowered people. 1 out of 6 billion is kind of small odds, but if there's one, then there should be a couple at least. Oh, I love the Dark League idea because, I wonder if I have it available here handy. Remember the Crime Syndicate was just the Justice League of Earth 3, with all evil people. Yeah, in fact, I just heard Patton Oswalt when I was doing that Batman Beyond review. He played a guy who looked like Patton Oswalt with a beard, neck beard. It was a Star Wars parody that they were doing, basically Star Wars fandom parody. Kick some things over here. I'm gonna pick up my stack of J comics that I hadn't got to yet. J is the next letter of the alphabet that I have to sort into my stack of boxes. Let's see if any of them are the old ones here. A lot of them will be, because at one point I did this crazy article a couple of years ago about the cost of comics and how they've gone up. And some people misinterpreted that as to say, oh, the old man just finally figured out inflation exists. And it wasn't really that, because I had adjusted for inflation. What I was actually counting was, what are we getting for the money? So I had flattened out the cost of, books from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. So that was a level playing field there. What I was counting was, what are we getting for the money story-wise? I took a 12-issue consecutive run of Justice League from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, and the 2010s. And I counted pages. I counted stories. How many stories did I get in that 12-issue run? So if it was a 2-parter, that was 1 story. Now we get 6-parters, that's 1 story. I counted the pages. I counted the panels. I counted the words. You want to talk about driving yourself apeshit? You try going through a comic book and counting words and keeping track of them. And the fact of the matter is that we're paying more per word now and getting fewer words per comic. We're getting less story. I think everybody knows that. The DC cartoons had a good cartoon movie with the Injustice League. That is called, I've got it. I've got it around here somewhere. I've got it upstairs. I'd have to find it, but I can't remember what the name of it was. Yeah, it was a good one. I liked the Grant Morrison graphic novel too. Owlman, and then there was Ultraman was the Superman parallel. Superwoman was the Wonder Woman parallel, and that was actually Lois Lane. Then there was a Johnny Quick and Power Ring. And of course, if you get into the Jeff Johns expanded version, which I love that he did that, he had you had Atomica, which was their Atom, and Grid, which was Cyborg. Now, Grid is the name of the program inside of Cyborg on the Doom Patrol series, which if you haven't seen Doom Patrol, check it out. I watched Titans on the streaming service, and I was extremely disappointed in that one. I think they made that one excessively dark. But again, you know, I'm not just a Marv Wolfman, George Perez Titans baby. I was into Titans with Nick Cardy and Bob Haney. In fact, my favorite Titans book is probably the one where they're going down the river into this giant skull cave, and it had just this beautiful artwork. Looking to see. I'm sure I have that one out here too somewhere. Let me dig through all these Justice Leagues here. This is riveting entertainment. Anyway, that's why I have all these Justice Leagues out of the boxes, because I did that whole counting of words and I used Justice League as a basis. Okay. Got all the Rebirth ones out of the way. What have I got here? Oh, yes. That's not exactly an old one, but it's back when they were, I think it was still the Wahaha Special Membership Drive League. Yeah, I thought Doom Patrol could get an Emmy of some kind. The actress who does Rita Farr did a great job with her, and also the actress who does Crazy Jane. You can tell the different characters played by the same actress. It's almost like an Orphan Black kind of situation with her. She just does a really good job with the voices and the personalities. I don't know if I'm the only person who liked the Brad Meltzer Justice League, but the idea that Solomon Grundy could get smart because he's doing a doomsday kind of thing, getting better every time he re-evolves. Plus, Michael Turner, God rest his soul, his covers were just astounding. And I like the Grant Morrison stories. I was not a great fan of the Howard Porter art. I know some people are. Yeah, the body language. She was a different character every single time. What are we into here? 86. Love that Zatanna costume. Is that the scarab head? Yeah, that's the scarab head and the onesie. This was the Detroit Justice League era. Never let it be said that I won't give any comic book a chance. If anybody remembers the Joey Buttafuoco story, that was news. Oh, here we go. Here's some fun stuff. Got a date on this? Yeah. Okay, we're at the point now where all the date they put on the cover was the month. This is June. So I don't know what year. I'd have to open it up and look at the indicia. And again, for the comics uninitiated, the indicia is that little box of text on the very front page, sometimes on the back page, that says, here's the name of this book. Here's the number of it. Here's the volume of it. You know why you need the indicia? Because they renumbered the goddamn things. And now you don't know whether you got the first number one, the second number one, the third number one, or the 15th number one. So you have to go to the indicia to find out the volume number and the date, which is important if you want to put them in chronological order, like, you know, somebody with CDO like me. CDO is like OCD, except the letters are in alphabetical order as they should be. This one is August. Hey, Despero's back. Who did this cover here? An Ernie Ernie Chua cover. There's a League story with Supergirl in it and Black Canary. The Flash, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, all the big heavy hitters. Adam Strange, never understood why he was in the Justice League. All he is a guy who can't stay on one planet for any length of time. Back to the Kevin Maguire Justice League. Although I liked that one. I liked Kevin Maguire's art. He was probably one of the first artists on a DC title who wasn't afraid to get sexy with things. So his women, he was Adam, I can't remember, guys, Adam somebody who draws the cheesecake covers. He was him before he was. Kicked out of the Detroit League. Oh, look, it's Sue Dibney, alive and kicking, along with the character who can never be a character anymore because of woke comic culture. Her name is Gypsy. Sorry, I'm going to say it. Say my name. Got some awesome Commander Steel here. Yeah, got to remember to go in reverse. Oh, the Special Crisis crossover. Yes. Featuring the JSA and Infinity Inc. I have an Infinity Inc. somewhere in my collection, signed by Todd McFarlane, because that's where Todd was breaking in, was doing the inks on Infinity. Adam Hughes, thank you. Yeah, Adam Hughes does great stuff. Anniversary issue number 250. The Justice League Detroit era was over, and the heavy hitters were back. I can't believe they did that last night. Were we talking about Arrow, or not Arrow, but the Flash, where they killed off? Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Yeah. Well, they weren't using that character anyway. So, you know what I really wanted to see? If I were on the Flash writing team and I was wanting to ratchet up the tension and build towards this event, when they get to the end of the episode and Breacher, Danny Trejo, is going back, I would have had him open up his little breach, step into it, and get totally dissolved by a flash of white light. And say, okay, Earth 19 is just joined Earth 2. So that we can tell that this crisis is shrinking the multiverse down. But that's just me. I don't know a thing about writing, apparently. September. Aquaman is dead, and it's our fault. We never even knew who he really was. That's right. You didn't know who Aquaman's name was at this point still in Justice League history. It'll be Justice League number 122. Adam gets his head on the top of the cover, but he doesn't get to actually see his body on the cover. Well, of course, he's the Atom. He's probably sitting on somebody's shoulder, and he's just too small to see. But here lies Aquaman, King of the Seven Seas, true identity unknown. Wedding issue. Adam Strange and Alana get married here. This is 123. This is, come on, superheroes, I'll take you all on, empty-handed and all alone. And this is, it doesn't say Crisis anywhere on it, but it's the world's greatest superheroes co-starring the Justice Society with probably the greatest, cheesiest costume of all, which is Earth 2 Robin. Let me see if I can get him in here. This is, I'm going to wear the Batman costume with my yellow cape, my mask, and I'm going to put my R over the top of the bat. That's what you do when you've grown out of your costume. You're just going to put on the hand-me-down one, and you're going to cut some pieces out of the other costume because you're still attached to it. We got here 253, The Origin of Despero. Batman is, of course, being crucified because he is Bat God. More of the Maguire era level heroes. You know, if I was the Atom, that's where I'd be riding. Morrison did a bit one time where Wonder Woman was in her room getting ready to change, and she just kind of stops and says, "Get out." And nothing happens. So she says, "Get out or I'll hurt you." And the lamp shifts back to Plastic Man, and he kind of sulks out of the room. I thought that was hilarious. The Cooey 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 episode in the Maguire stuff I thought was very cool. In retrospect, it was kind of funny then, but in retrospect, it's very cool because they've been Blue Beetle and Booster Gold bought the island with funds from the Justice League. They've been caught and found out. They're having to go back with their tail between their legs, and Beetle's like, our Blue Booster Gold. I'll get it out. I have to be so damned alliterative with their names. Booster Gold is like, Max is going to kill us. And Booster Gold says, "Oh, relax. It's not like Maxwell Lord is going to put a bullet in your head." That was prophetic. So, no, Ted, he's going to put the bullet in your head. Here we go. Wonder Woman finally rejoined the JLA just in time for her funeral. That's number 128, 25 cents, a March issue. Back when Elongated Man was wearing the cool red costume. Okay. Justice League 61. Operation Jail the Justice League. Now, this is the one where the villains and the heroes ended up swapping identities. And this story was later referenced in Identity Crisis because, you know, Hawkman was always underused. I mean, but they tried to make a power that he could talk to birds or something. But Hawkman was underused and misunderstood until James Robinson came in and fixed him, which was impossible, but got done. Have I told any of you guys here my proposal for a Legion of Superheroes story? Because I know I've told some people about it, and I don't want to bore people who've already heard it. But basically, I want to do a Legion story where they respond to a break-in at a museum, and it's all being fought in shadows. They can't tell who's attacking them. And when they finally do find this guy, it's a kid. He's a well-built kid, but he's, just a young man. And he's got weaponry that he's taken from the museum, and he's just standing there against the wall, backlit, and Dawnstar shows up with the rest of the Legion as backup, and that's when he stops, and he says, "Shayera," and it will be, the reincarnated Carter Hall, Prince, whatever his name is, still going through the cycles of reincarnation that were established in the Robinson run, even that far into the future. And of course, I thought it would be great fun if Dawnstar was Shayera and didn't remember it until that moment, which would cause some sort of a triangle between him and Ultra Boy and Shayera, Prince Khufu. So I always think Khufu is that disease you get from eating other people's brains. I think it's even spelled the same way. But DC has a number of characters, a small handful, but still a number of them, that should be viable in the time of the Legion of Superheroes. So while all this conflict's going on, I have Hawklad being pulled out of it in darkness, and they're like, where'd he go? He disappeared, and have him later be shown with another group of people who have, been waiting for him because they know he reincarnates, and basically have the Spectre, who is immortal, somebody wearing the helm of Dr. Fate, which should be passed down, It's lasted thousands of years so far. No reason why it can't last one more thousand number of years. Plastic Man, who's not biodegradable, so he's older, but still stretchable. And I had a number of other characters who were just, there's no reason why either their essence or their equipment or even their whole bodies should not be operating in the as a society of superheroes. Sort of a, the Justice League had the Justice Society. The Legion should have a, I don't know, Loyal Order of Moose or something. Anyway, that's, another idea that's out there, will never happen because nobody's interested in making old Legion stories anymore. Okay, let's have some real fun. I apologize that my hanging light is right above where I'm at here. How far ahead of Batman Beyond is Legion? Well, Batman Beyond is Bruce Wayne's still alive. He's 80. Let's assume that he's pushing 40 now, so it's about 45 years in the future. The Legion has another 955 years to go before we're in Legion territory. And somewhere between Batman Beyond and the Legion, we go through the great disaster with Commandy. So that happens. Yeah, this was a good one. This was the first Justice League Justice Society crossover. So we got, the two Flashes. We've got Wonder Woman and Black Canary in a cage. This is when Black Canary was still an Earth 2 character. She hadn't crossed over to Earth 1 yet. And not enough of that was ever played up either. I don't know if it was a post-crisis thing, I guess. But there wasn't a whole lot done with the fact that she came from another Earth when she came finally here. It was just her husband died. I can't take it. I'm going to go to another Earth. Gosh, wish we all had that option, right? There is the most dangerous Earth of all. This was the first appearance right here of the crime syndicate of Earth 3. We're not only seeing Johnny Quick, Owlman, and Power Ring on here. Owlman looked a whole lot more like... Owlman was basically wearing Batman's costume, but let's make the head brown like an owl instead of the whole costume an owl. And, oh, we have a holster because we're a bad guy. We're going to carry a gun. Yeah, this is number 30, and I don't have to know the year because the nice grocery store that got it decided to stamp it right above Green Lantern's shoulder here. (1964). So they got this in the store July 28th, 1964. Fun stuff. Here's a goofy one. The Justice League were made to be afraid of everything, so these Russian Cossacks were able to, who were a bunch of goofballs, were able to chase them off. The Dirty Half Dozen, number 66. This one, who did the cover on this one? Because this is unique. It's very nice style on this. It's not a Perro. I can tell by Batman's chin on this one. But this is the super champions of 3 worlds face a crisis on Earth S. And so we have, this is the Earth 2 Batman. You can tell by the lack of the yellow oval. Punching the Joker, and there's Earth 2 Robin. This mirror image thing is going to get me. And, oh, look, Hawkman is fighting Dr. Light. That'd be the Earth 1 Hawkman, because he has the across the chest with the hawk thing. So we got 2 Earth 2 people. I think that's an Earth 2 Joker down here as well. And Earth S, of course, would be the first time that we go to the second part of this story, because the Crisis were always 2-part stories. Earth S was the home of the Marvels. So that's the first time that that the big blue guy and the big red guy had to fight it out. And of course, it's all because King Kull up here has red kryptonite in his hand. So they needed Captain Marvel to fight off an enraged Superman. That was fun. Remember comics? Remember when they used to be fun? Now, I said just a second ago that the crises were always a 2-parter. I'm now finding out that I lied, because this was number 136, and this is number 137. I missed out on the fact that number 135 kicked the whole thing off. So this was the traditional Crisis cover, where you would have the team rosters going down the side, and if it was a really big Crisis, you'd have a team roster going across the top as well. So when you had 3 rosters, you knew you were in for one slobber knocker of a fight. So what we had here was, of course, the home team going across the top here. You got the Justice League. Then going down the side here, you had the Justice Society. We knew we were going to get the Earth 2 Batman. That was a kind of a treat there to get that. Is that the Earth 2 Robin? Yes, it is. He gets the full face mask. And the Earth 2 Wonder Woman. You never got the 2 Wonder Womans together much. Then, of course, there's the Earth S characters. You had Bullet Man and Bullet Girl. Is that Ebus the Invincible, not Sargon the Sorcerer. Mr. Scarlet and his sidekick, Pinky. Nobody wanted to be Pinky. And then Spy Smasher. Pinky? What did I think of Chuck as Shazam? Overall, first of all, I thought Shazam was a fun movie. And that was needed and necessary. I don't understand quite yet why why Captain Marvel, sorry, I'm a traditional purist. I don't know why Captain Marvel, I get that he was supposed to act like a kid, because Billy Batson's a kid. Billy Batson was more mature than Captain Marvel. And I think that they didn't quite follow, they weren't steady in their portrayal. Chuck should have played Captain Marvel the same way he played Billy. Yeah, kind of shocked and freaked out that, hey, I'm just big superhero guy, but I think he played it more goofy. That whole, I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please. Billy was more street savvy and cooler than that. Secondly, he should have acted even more mature than that, because they played Captain Marvel as though this kid has become Superman. And so what if Superman had the brain of a kid? And they've totally left out the fact that he comes with the wisdom of Solomon. So, he's not just now suddenly super strong and super fast. He's really kind of super wise. So, when it comes time to buying beer for his underage Freddie Freeman pal, he would probably go along the lines of, this really isn't a great idea, because first of all, we can get in all kinds of trouble for this. You could get in trouble if you're caught with it. I don't want to see you go back to juvie hall. And Freddie was like, "What the hell happened to you, man? You were cool a second ago." "I don't know. This wisdom is just popping in my head." Oh. So, but I get they wanted to make it goofy. I want to know, was that really Superman that showed up in the post credits, because we didn't see anything chest. Um, so yeah, he kind of freaked out there. That was it was good. It was not as good as Aquaman. I liked Aquaman better. Uh, my wife, who is not into comic book movies, is very much into Aquaman, but we don't discuss it. She was also very much into baseball one year. Living in St. Louis, we had Mark McGuire, and it was the year of the Great Chase. And I was watching the game, and she came down just about the time McGuire's getting up to bat. She came down and said, "Are you still watching the baseball game? Does this mean I'm going to have to go to the bedroom to watch my..." "Who's that?" Because he had just done this, and froze her in her tracks. The next time I went to a ball game, she went with me. She took her camera. She did what she was not supposed to do, which was go down to the baseline in the seats, because there was no one there to stop her, and she started taking pictures. I have somewhere in a chest a photo album that has at least 20 pictures of Mark McGuire's butt. We just have to know it's his butt. His face is nowhere in the picture, but we have pictures of his butt. So there. If Jason Momoa comes to Wizard World in St. Louis, once they announce, and if they announce that he's there, I already know I have to sell blood so that I can get her a line in the autograph. And if he's carrying a kitten like he does in that Facebook post, he can take her home. No man escapes the Manhunters, not even Green Lantern. So let the Manhunter take me, he says. That's Justice League number 140 for 50 cents with a Buckler and McLaughlin cover. Excellent shit. Super stuff. Despero means danger in this battle at the edge of forever. And this is another Ernie Chua cover. They're fighting Despero. I don't know whose hand that is. But again, it's, you know, all the big players. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman were always in the league. And then we had Hawkman, more Supergirl, and Elongated Man. This was one of my favorites. Largely because I've already explained before my Batgirl fetish, and we won't drag those back out again. Justice League number 60. There, I got the glare off of it. All the male Justice Leaguers have been droned, and their only hope is now in Batgirl, who won't fall prey to her wiles because she's Batgirl, not Batwoman, whom we must assume would have. I mean, you know, those were stories we just didn't touch then. New Justice League. This was when you can only stack comics so high before gravity takes over. This was the guy who was not a supervillain, but went into a supervillain bar, played poker, and won all their stuff. Excuse me, one moment. I have to fix Flip Ball and Stacko comics. Thankfully, they didn't fall the other way, because then it would have knocked over my drink. Only I can knock over my drink. Put it there just in case they do fall. Oh, Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham, and Negan. Yeah, yeah, I can't remember his name either. So, Bat God Conquers the Martians. We're back into the Morrison era. Morrison, 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 Morrison. Ah, yes, when the new Green Arrow joined the Justice League, Connor Hawke, and he's stuck with his old man's arrows. It's like, boxing glove arrows? What the hell were you thinking? You can be the death of me, Dad. Can never get enough Alex Ross Justice League. Hey, Shelly Cakes. Thanks for coming in. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, the comedian, of course. I should have remembered that. Gene Ha. I don't think he did this cover, but he did the interiors. Gene Ha had a very realistic style that I absolutely love when I see his work being done. More Michael Turner. Nobody draws like Michael Turner drew. I mean, especially this cover with Power Boobs and Power Girl and Dream Girl and Black Canary. Dream Girl. I don't watch Supergirl except to hate on it. And I watched the last episode of Supergirl on the CW app, which meant it took about 3 hours instead of the 40 minutes that it should have, because the CW app sucks and it freezes all the time and you have to kill it and restart it. And if you're lucky, it'll restart where you left off and move forward. Otherwise, it restarts right before where you left off and freezes right again. So I still not finished watching last night's Green Arrow episode, so I don't know how that ended. I don't know how it ended. Don't spoil it. I'll get there eventually. But it took me an hour and a half to watch The Flash today. Anyway, I don't know why Dream Girl is there, or Dreamer as they're calling her now. I know it's not Dream Girl. I know it's her great grandfather. Can I say that? Grandmother. I don't know how that's going to work out. I'm not privy to the mechanics of how that'll happen. But Dreamer's power is one of precognition. You fall asleep, you have a dream, and you can see the future and you can help people change it. No, now it's basically her power is whatever the hell the writers need her to do at the time. So she can shoot some sort of force wave that stopped a tidal wave along the entirety of the West Coast. That's a little bit of a massive OP. So, yeah, screw it. Justice League #1 of the New 52. That was a good start. Rebirth came along and aborted the entire thing. Kind of on a choice of words there, I guess. Rebirth and abortion. But anyway, so I've talked about the stuff I want to talk about ComicsGate, and how disappointed I am in the way people are acting. I don't care if the community gets healed. I just wish the community would recognize that there are factions that are still ComicsGate, even if they're not your ComicsGate. So maybe that will come. I think there's an opportunity to take advantage of the ComicsGate revolution, because right now we've got, what ComicsGate is a mirror version or a new version of the publishing industry. So, you know, it's an answer to what DC and Marvel are doing, is all the ComicsGate stuff. There's an opportunity to be had here for somebody who wants to become the ComicsGate of Diamond, and become a distributor for ComicsGate to the local comic stores. Now, to do that, that price point is going to have to come down. You can't put out even 80-page books uh, for 25 bucks and get them into the hands of the LCS, who's going to have to upcharge that some more because they're. I just lose my power.
scam. They're scammers. So you're going to find